Alan's voice cut through the bustle the moment Rhea and Jack returned, demanding to know why they had taken so long. Rhea apologized, explaining that they had arrived later than intended, but Alan protested dramatically, insisting it was far beyond a small delay and that she ought to feel ashamed. Instead of arguing, Rhea offered the drinks she carried and urged him to try one first. His irritation vanished the instant he tasted it, replaced by a bright smile as he declared it delicious. Only then did Rhea notice Lucio standing nearby. With careful politeness, she extended a blue drink toward him and recommended it as especially refreshing. Lucio did not react. He simply turned away and stated that they were short on time and should proceed to the academy. Alan quickly moved to follow, urging his brother to go together. Rhea remained where she stood, left holding the untouched drink. In her thoughts, she reasoned that to someone like Lucio, such a simple refreshment must seem trivial. Still, she had wanted to thank him using the small savings she had carefully set aside. Her thoughts were interrupted when Jack suddenly took the drink from her hands. Startled, she protested that he had not even finished the one she had already given him and warned he would get a stomachache if he drank so much. Blushing but determined, Jack insisted he could finish them both, gripping the 2 cups firmly. Rhea relented, expressing quiet gratitude for his thoughtfulness. With that, they set off together toward the academy. Inside the academy grounds, Rhea slowed her steps as the lively scene unfolded before her. Students in neat uniforms passed in groups, laughter and chatter drifting through the air, while banners and decorations swayed gently above the wide stone paths. Her attention was captured by a towering statue at the center of the courtyard, and she stood before it in quiet amazement, thinking how different the academy felt from what she had imagined from the outside. The place seemed grand, vibrant, and full of life. Her thoughts were interrupted when Diana looked at her with puffy eyes and pointed curiously toward Rhea's bag. In response, Rhea opened it and revealed bracelets and necklaces, explaining that they were nothing special. She reflected inwardly that she had been delayed earlier because she stopped to buy them along the way. Alan examined one and immediately criticized its cheap appearance, remarking that she had bought too many and should have chosen fewer, better items. Rhea quickly snatched the piece back and insisted she was prioritizing quantity over quality. When Alan questioned whether she truly liked such things, she answered simply that she did. Privately, she avoided explaining further, knowing that revealing the truth would expose her intentions. The items were meant to serve as seed money for a small business she hoped to start. At that moment, Rhea noticed Diana's expression soften into a hopeful, almost pleading look. Understanding the silent request, she gently offered to place a bracelet on Diana's wrist. Diana hesitated, asking whether it belonged to Rhea, but Rhea reassured her that it was meant for her and encouraged her to hold out her hand. As Rhea carefully fastened the bracelet, the string suddenly snapped. Beads scattered across the ground, bouncing over the stone pavement. Both Rhea and Diana froze in shock at the unexpected break. Rhea immediately apologized and knelt down to gather the fallen beads, asking for a moment to fix the situation. As she collected each tiny piece, she sighed inwardly, realizing the bracelet had likely broken so easily because of its poor quality. Despite that, she could not ignore the fact that she had spent all her money on these items. As Rhea knelt on the academy courtyard stones gathering the scattered beads, a hand suddenly entered her view and lifted one from the ground. The young man returned the bead to her, prompting gratitude from Rhea. Her thanks halted mid-motion when she finally looked up and saw the student before her. He urged her to take it, and the moment stretched as Rhea stared in stunned silence. In her mind, she could only register his striking appearance, as if he were a radiant presence standing under the festival light. A faint blush crept across her face while she struggled to respond. He studied her briefly and remarked that she looked young, asking if she was a student from the Gifted Academy. He then assumed she must be visiting for the festival and asked whether she had family there. The word lingered heavily in her thoughts. She hesitated, unsure how to answer, and began politely explaining that it was not exactly so. Before she could finish, a voice called from behind them. Rhea turned toward the sound and saw Lucio approaching. He questioned what the young man was doing there. The two greeted one another with easy familiarity, and the young man responded with pleasant surprise at the sight of everyone. Rhea sensed a subtle tension in the air and wondered whether they knew each other well. Alan's voice cut through the moment as he called out to Rhea, telling her not to run off. He stopped abruptly upon seeing Lucio, then noticed the young man beside him and greeted him as well, calling him Brother Ascal. The young man returned the greeting warmly. Rhea's thoughts jolted in shock at the name. Realization struck. This was Ascal Veis, heir to the Veis dukedom. He apologized for the late greeting and introduced himself properly. Before the moment could settle, Diana pointed at him with unfiltered delight, exclaiming at his handsomeness. He laughed lightly and accepted the praise with a smile. Diana and Rhea enthusiastically signaled their approval, awarding him a perfect score with cheerful gestures. Alan stood speechless, already resigned to the predictable chaos that followed whenever people saw Ascal's face. Lucio then spoke his name, drawing his attention at once. He remarked that Ascal was usually locked away in the library and questioned why he was out walking today. Ascal replied that the sunlight through the window had looked inviting, prompting him to take a walk for a change. Lucio responded that if he had finished walking, he should return, reminding him that he had no intention of joining the festival crowds and disliked crowded places. Rhea stood quietly as the exchange between Lucio and Ascal settled into an uneasy calm. In her thoughts, she wondered if Lucio's tone had sharpened out of protectiveness toward Diana, perhaps more than what would be expected between friends. Ascal, sensing the atmosphere, excused himself and mentioned returning to the library. Before he could leave, he glanced at Rhea. She noticed the look and, almost reflexively, asked about the academy library, wondering aloud if it was truly as vast as rumored. Ascal's expression brightened. He confirmed that it was enormous and asked whether she liked books. Then he paused, realizing he did not know her name. Rhea began to introduce herself, but Lucio spoke first, stating her name clearly. The sound of her name on his lips stopped her mid-breath. It was such a simple thing, yet it stirred memories she could not suppress. For an instant, fragments of another time surfaced. Lucio calling her name while holding her, urgency and emotion echoing in his voice. The present returned just as quickly. Ascal repeated her name, committing it to memory. Seeing her interest, he offered to show her the academy library. He explained that outsiders were normally not allowed inside, but during the festival, guests could enter if accompanied by a student, and he pointed out the building nearby. Rhea's heart raced at the rare opportunity. Though she knew it might be improper, the chance to see the Central Academy Library was irresistible. Alan voiced his disbelief, remarking that she could not have come all the way to the festival just to visit a library, and he turned to Diana for support. Diana fell into deep thought before calmly giving Rhea permission to go ahead. Rhea froze in surprise. Alan protested, warning that if Diana said that, Rhea would truly go. With shining eyes and barely contained excitement, Rhea promised she would return before the fireworks and urged them to enjoy themselves while she was gone. She waved enthusiastically and hurried off. Alan called after her, reminding her to be back before the fireworks. Lucio released a quiet sigh, thinking to himself that he had intended to give her a proper academy tour as his father requested, yet she had run off before he could. As Rhea disappeared into the crowd with Ascal, Alan and Jack began talking. Alan wondered aloud if Rhea had a preference for blonde men, noting that the young man she had just met also had blonde hair. Jack replied that if Alan meant the man they met at the gate, Rhea had not seemed to like him at all, and had even looked frightened. Lucio, who had been listening in silence, asked who they had encountered earlier. Alan answered that it was Kenneth Petit, the young heir of Count Petit. Lucio repeated the name under his breath, his expression tightening as recognition settled in.
Hi, this is Winter. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to Winter Manhwa for more exciting recaps every week.